Ancient sages had a precept: know thyself, know your selfhood. But how can we, living in a fast-paced and often chaotic digital world, truly come to terms with our essence, our selfhood, and realize our inner potential? Integrate the shadow. In this video, you will learn about 8 techniques inspired by Jungian psychology that will help you delve into the very core of your personality, integrate the shadow, and develop the power of your mind, your ego, on the path to selfhood. This is an invitation to an exciting journey into the depths of your consciousness and unconsciousness, where every turn reveals new facets of your true self, your selfhood. If you aspire to personal growth, to individuation, and crave a deep understanding of yourself, your shadow, and your selfhood, do not miss this opportunity. Stay with us until the end. An opening that can change your outlook on life awaits you. Let our journey to deeper self-knowledge, to selfhood, begin right now. First, observe yourself. Have you ever wondered how differently you might behave if you stepped outside the familiar bounds of your persona and looked at your actions from the outside as if you were someone else? This idea lies at the heart of a powerful technique that allows you to transcend your own prejudices, complexes, and projections of the shadow, and see yourself in a new light, drawing closer to understanding your selfhood. By observing ourselves, with the detached curiosity of an outsider, we rid ourselves of the web of emotions, complexes, and biased assessments dictated by the shadow and persona that cloud the perception of who we really are, of our selfhood. Let us break this down with a simple example. Imagine you are watching a movie where the main character is you. How would you rate their actions, their choices, their reactions, their shadow? This shift in perspective allows you to see your own habits, reactions, and manifestations of the shadow with greater objectivity and identify aspects of behavior that do not correspond to your ideal image, your selfhood. This is not an act of self-criticism, but a way to gain clarity, understanding of yourself, your shadow, and move along the path of individuation. When you observe a stranger, you do not have the emotional baggage, complexes, and projections of the shadow that usually accompany self-observation. You see their actions for what they are, neither good nor bad, but simply actions. It is important to learn to observe without judgment, like a scientist observing an experiment, becoming aware of the manifestation of the shadow. Therefore, when anger, irritation, or any other strong emotion rising from the shadow arises in you, take a step back and ask yourself, why am I reacting this way? What has been activated in me? What part of my shadow is manifesting now? Evaluate your feelings, your shadow, as an external phenomenon, not as something that defines you. This practice brings amazing clarity. Instead of being absorbed by emotions dictated by the shadow, you begin to understand their origins, see how they form, and most importantly, learn to manage them. Integrate the shadow. It is not about suppressing feelings, not about denying the shadow, but about realizing them from a distance, understanding their nature, and integrating them into your personality. Our thoughts, especially those dictated by the shadow and complexes, change as rapidly as trends on social networks and have as strong an influence as real events. Such a view is extremely important. Changing your point of view, awareness of the shadow, is not always easy, but it is vital for achieving emotional balance, for integrating the shadow, and for moving along the path of individuation. We suffer, more often in imagination, in the captivity of our complexes and shadow than in reality. By observing yourself, your reactions, your shadow, you learn to recognize and weaken the influence of irrational fears and anxieties dictated by the shadow, which ultimately leads to a more peaceful, authentic life, and to the acquisition of selfhood. Second, accept yourself completely, both the good and the bad. When you look in the mirror, what first catches your eye? Often we focus on our shortcomings, on manifestations of the shadow, missing our strengths, our virtues, our selfhood. The same thing happens in life when we dwell on our mistakes, experiences, or complexes. Our shadow takes over. Constant self-criticism coming from the shadow creates an inner monologue full of condemnation and disappointment. But here is the secret. True growth, the process of individuation, begins with accepting yourself, with all your strengths and weaknesses, with all your light and shadow. This acceptance does not mean that you need to ignore shortcomings, deny the shadow, or refuse self-improvement. It is about being able to look at yourself objectively, without excessive self-criticism dictated by the shadow, seeing both the positive and negative aspects, and without seeking to hide them, to hide the shadow behind the persona. It is not about idealizing yourself or suppressing your own weaknesses, manifestations of the shadow. It is about seeing reality as it is and accepting it, integrating the shadow. After all, when you accept all aspects of your personality, from the brightest to the most vulnerable to the most shadowy, you become stronger, more complete, and open, the way to true change, to individuation. Recognizing your shortcomings, your shadow, is not the end of the road. It is the beginning of the path to selfhood. Accept what fate connects you with, your path of individuation, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do it from the heart, sincerely, and not through the prism of the persona. Such acceptance is the foundation for transformation, for the integration of the shadow, which begins with honesty with yourself. Write down your strengths and weaknesses, your light and shadow aspects, even those you do not want to admit. Look at this list not as a sentence but as a map, as a guide to action. These are your tools, your resources, and also areas that can be developed, integrating the shadow. Instead of berating yourself for imperfection, for manifestations of the shadow, ask yourself, how can I? Remember, every part of you, every trait, both light and shadowy, plays a certain role in your life's journey, in your process of individuation. Strive to become who you should become, your selfhood. By accepting every aspect of your essence, you lay the foundation for true self-improvement, for the integration of the shadow, and for moving along the path to selfhood. It is not about becoming someone else, but about becoming the best version of yourself, gaining wholeness. Constantly challenge yourself, strive for the integration of the shadow, but start small. After all, every step, no matter how modest, brings you closer to unlocking your true potential, your selfhood. Third, constant challenge to yourself, the path to growth. We talked about accepting every aspect of your personality, about accepting your shadow. There is another equally important step, to challenge yourself, to work on yourself, to integrate the shadow. Accepting yourself is the starting point, but what next? Personal growth, the process of individuation, occurs when you leave your comfort zone, test your limits, develop new skills, and integrate the shadow. It is like a muscle that needs not only rest, but also constant training. You have already recognized who you are, accepted your shadow. Now it is time to ask yourself, who am I capable of becoming? Who do I want to become following the path to selfhood? It is important to constantly strive for self-improvement, for the integration of the shadow. But here is one important point. Do not try to make a giant leap forward. The path to change, to selfhood, lies through small steps, each of which strengthens you, integrates the shadow, and brings you closer to the desired result. No great deed is created suddenly. This wisdom is also applicable to the process of individuation. Implement it into your life by setting small, achievable goals, and you will see how every small effort, every small victory over the shadow becomes the foundation for greater victories, the foundation for moving towards selfhood. For example, if you want to become more patient, try starting with something simple. Refrain from a hasty answer in conversation. Become aware of your shadow. Strive to be more physically active. Start with short daily walks rather than strenuous workouts. Identify one area that you want to improve, one trait of the shadow that you want to integrate, and make a simple plan to achieve it. If it is reading, start with one page before bed. If you want to improve your public speaking skills, practice in front of a mirror or with a close friend. Remember, small victories, small steps to integrate the shadow, add up to great achievements. Even insignificant steps, if done regularly, have a cumulative effect. Your life is a seed that needs constant care, perseverance, and work on itself, on its shadow, in order to eventually turn into a mighty tree, into your selfhood. Any great journey, any movement toward selfhood, begins with a small step. Do not be afraid to challenge yourself, to integrate the shadow in part step by step. This way you will not only strengthen your abilities, but also develop in yourself the resilience, perseverance, and ability to integrate the shadow necessary for achieving true greatness, for acquiring selfhood. Fourth, compare yourself only to yourself yesterday. Have you ever noticed that scrolling through social networks where everyone demonstrates their persona causes feelings of depression and insecurity? It seems that everyone else's life is better and more successful. It is easy to fall into the trap of comparing yourself to others, to their personas, but this is an illusion that blurs your true understanding of your own progress, your own path to selfhood. The only fair and useful comparison is a comparison to yourself, but to who you were yesterday. This is not just a way to feel better. It is a practice of consciously recognizing and evaluating your own path and integrating the shadow. When we talked about small things, maybe you showed more patience, compassion, or simply strengthened your inner peace by working with the shadow. Recognizing even the smallest changes opens the way to realizing that your progress, your movement, toward selfhood is not a coincidence but the result of a conscious choice. The result of your work on yourself, on your shadow. You have power over your mind, over your reactions, over your ability to integrate the shadow, and not over external circumstances. By realizing this, you gain strength. Focus on your development, on your path to selfhood, and not on other people's paths, not on other people's personas. Every evening, set aside a few minutes to reflect on the day. What did you do better today than yesterday? It can be anything. Maybe you were more attentive to your interlocutor, made a choice in favor of healthy food, showed a little more patience, or took a step to integrate your shadow. These small achievements, these small victories over the shadow, are not trifles. They are steps on the path to selfhood. Record your victories, your steps to integrate the shadow, even if they are only brief notes in a diary or on your phone. Over time, these records will become a powerful reminder to you of how far you have progressed, how much you have integrated, how close you have come to selfhood, step by step. When you focus on your own growth, on the integration of the shadow, and not on comparing yourself with others, with their personas, you free yourself from unrealistic expectations and devaluing your unique path, your path to selfhood. Remember that everyone is going their own way. Everyone has their own pace, their own ups and downs, their own shadow. Understand that every day is another step toward the person you aspire to become, toward your selfhood. Adopt this practice as part of your life, as a tool for integrating the shadow, and you will find that your inner peace, satisfaction, confidence in your own strengths, and closeness to selfhood begin to increase. Fifth, take full responsibility for your life. When a person takes full responsibility for their thoughts, actions, choices, for their shadow, and for their path to selfhood, an amazing shift occurs in the perception of oneself and the surrounding world. It is as if you suddenly took the steering wheel of a car that had been drifting along the current. It is easy to blame circumstances, other people, or even misfortune for the fact that you found yourself in a certain situation, that you encountered manifestations of your shadow. But here is the truth. The more you take responsibility for your reactions, for integrating the shadow, for your decisions and for your path to selfhood, the more control you gain over your life, directing it in the direction you need. By taking responsibility for your life, for your path to selfhood, for your thoughts, emotions, reactions, and for integrating the shadow, you take an important step in gaining control over your life's journey. This means saying to yourself, "This is my path, the path to my selfhood, and I take responsibility for every turn of it, for every encounter with the shadow, and for its integration." We cannot choose external circumstances, but we can always choose how to react to them, how to integrate the shadow, and how to move along the path to selfhood. By accepting responsibility for your life, you cease to be a passive observer, a victim of circumstances or your shadow. You become. Start with something simple. Identify those areas of your life where you tend to shift blame onto others, where you see manifestations of your shadow. Perhaps this concerns personal relationships, career issues, or achievements that you have not yet achieved. Ask yourself, how can I take more responsibility in these areas? How can I integrate my shadow? It is not about being overly critical of yourself or burdening yourself with guilt, but about recognizing your ability to change the situation, integrate the shadow, and start acting, moving toward selfhood. If a project at work is stalling, instead of looking for those at fault among colleagues, manifestations of the shadow, think about what I can do differently to improve the result. How can I integrate my shadow and contribute to the common cause? This approach not only accelerates your personal growth, your process of individuation, but also elicits respect and trust from those around you. You become a person who does not look for excuses but looks for solutions, a person who integrates their shadow. Accepting responsibility, integrating the shadow, allows you to perceive difficulties, encounters with the shadow, as valuable lessons, and opportunities to become stronger, wiser, and closer to selfhood. You begin to see in every failure, in every manifestation of the shadow, not obstacles but a new opportunity for growth, self-improvement, and movement along the path of individuation. This understanding transforms your attitude toward life and makes you less vulnerable to external influences, to the influence of the shadow. The next step in this art is deepening the Jungian approach to life, where every day is a new chance to demonstrate resilience, prudence, the ability to integrate the shadow and to approach selfhood. Sixth, wisely choose your environment and influence. Every day, regardless of whether we notice it or not, we are influenced by the people, information, and environment in which we are located. This can be compared to air. Sometimes it is clean and fills us with energy, and sometimes it is polluted, full of projections of the shadow and suppresses. These external influences, like internal shadows, complexes, shape our thinking, our emotions, our decisions, and ultimately the direction of our entire life, our path to selfhood. The problem arises when toxic surroundings, negative factors, or people under the strong influence of the shadow distract us from who we want to be, from our selfhood, and prevent us from unlocking our true potential. Understanding and consciously choosing these influences becomes critical to your growth, inner well-being, and movement along the path of individuation. As you take responsibility for your life, for your path to selfhood, it becomes important to choose who and what to allow to influence you, whose shadow you are willing to accept, and whose not. Associate with people who can improve you, who support your path to individuation, who help you integrate the shadow. By surrounding yourself with positive, supportive, and inspiring people, you can move forward despite any external circumstances and manifestations of the shadow. Similarly, the media you consume has a powerful influence on your mind, on your perception of reality. If they uplift your mood, enrich, inspire, and contribute to your development, then they play a positive role. But if they demean, cause negative emotions, activate your shadow, and distract you from the main thing, from the path to selfhood, perhaps it is time to reconsider their place in your life. Start by assessing your current circle of acquaintances and information sources. Are there among them people who constantly drain your energy, suppress your aspirations, or project their shadow onto you? Maybe these are colleagues, friends on social networks, relatives, or news channels that cause anxiety, a sense of helplessness, and activate your shadow. Ask yourself, what sources, what people, what manifestations of the shadow do I allow to shape my worldview? It is time to make room for what truly supports your path to self-improvement, to selfhood, to the integration of the shadow. This does not mean that you should isolate yourself from the world. It is about deliberately creating an environment that will promote your development, your individuation, whether it is books, podcasts, conversations, movies, or people. Make sure that they add value, inspiration, and contribute to the integration of the shadow into your life. When your mind is nourished by positive and motivating resources, people who support your path to individuation, this becomes the foundation for your inner growth and helps you move in the right direction to selfhood. Remember that every choice you make determines who you become, and if you want to live a life filled with wisdom, harmony, strength of spirit, and selfhood, surround yourself with what reflects your true values, your selfhood, and promotes the integration of the shadow. 7th, say yes only to what really matters. Your time, energy, and attention are the most valuable resources you possess. But how often do you spend them on what has no real importance, what does not contribute to your development? The integration of the shadow and movement along the path to selfhood? Too many obligations dictated by the persona or infatuation with insignificant matters imposed from outside can lead you astray from true goals, from your selfhood and life aspirations. The art says, yes only to what truly corresponds to your values, your selfhood, and promotes the integration of the shadow. A powerful skill worth developing. This principle resonates with our previous discussion about choosing influences and surroundings. It extends to our decisions and actions. It is the ability to choose not quantity, but quality in every aspect of your life. A person should not fear death, but that they will never truly begin to live in accordance with their selfhood. To truly live means making conscious choices in favor of what is important and valuable, what contributes to your development, the integration of the shadow, and movement along the path of individuation, and not simply filling them. Start with an assessment before agreeing to a new project, meeting, or event. Compare their importance with your personal and professional goals, with your path to selfhood. Ask yourself, will this lead me to the desired result, to selfhood, or will it simply take up my time? Will this contribute to the integration of my shadow? If the answer does not correspond to your priorities, your selfhood, it is better to politely decline and focus on what really matters. Remember, every time you say yes to something insignificant, to something that does not lead you to selfhood, you automatically say no to your true goals, to your opportunities, and to your path to individuation. Agreeing only to what is truly important will allow you to live more purposefully and fully, avoiding the feeling of being overloaded and uselessly busy. This is not a question of strictness or isolation from the outside world. It is a question of choice, a question of following the path of individuation. Each time, give your yes only to what resonates with your soul, with your selfhood, to what brings you closer to the desired future. This skill is key to a life in which your every action correlates with your values, with your selfhood, and brings you closer to the realization of your most sincere aspirations, to individuation. This is precisely the true art of wise choice, which frees you from the bonds of useless obligations dictated by the persona and directs you to your true purpose, to your selfhood. 8th, your influence. We are often so focused on our personal development, on the integration of the shadow and on movement along the path of individuation that we overlook the power and significance of the influence that we can have on others. The true measure of our inner growth, our closeness to selfhood, is not only in how much we change ourselves but also in how we inspire others, how we contribute to their development and movement along the path of individuation. Remember how we talked about the importance of focusing on what matters. One of these significant areas is our interaction with the people with whom we intersect on the life path, our influence on their path to selfhood. After all, any action or word of ours can leave a mark on the life of another person. Where there is a person, there is a place and opportunity for the manifestation of virtue, for empathy, for support, and for helping others in their movement to selfhood. It is our inner wisdom, our ability to integrate the shadow, which we have acquired through experience and overcoming difficulties, that makes our actions truly valuable. It is not only about personal self-improvement, but also about striving to create a positive influence that goes beyond our own self, about helping others in their path to individuation. Start with simple steps. Be a positive presence in the lives of those around you. This can be a simple offer to listen, support with advice, show empathy, or even just smile at someone who is sad. You can also find time for volunteer work, become a mentor for someone, or simply show compassion and understanding in everyday communication, helping others integrate their shadow. Remember, it is not about large-scale gestures. Even the smallest acts of support, whether it is a sincere word, a gesture of kindness, or insignificant help, can have a huge impact. can become a catalyst for another person's movement to selfhood. When you share your inner strength, your ability to integrate the shadow helping others, you not only make their lives better but also contribute to your own growth, your own individuation, developing in yourself compassion, generosity, and empathy. The path of self-knowledge, the integration of the shadow and inner growth is an endless journey that requires honesty, courage, a constant striving for the best, and the ability to empathize. This is an opportunity to better understand yourself. Your shadow becomes stronger. Find harmony with the world and approach selfhood. It is important to accept yourself as you are, with all your light and shadowy sides, to strive for perfection, to integrate the shadow, and to share your light, the light of your selfhood, with others. Remember that true strength lies not in the absence of weaknesses, not in the absence of the shadow, but in the ability to turn them into points of growth, in the ability to integrate the shadow. Develop your inner potential, your selfhood. Do not be afraid to challenge yourself. Integrate the shadow. Surround yourself with the right people and influences, those who support your path to individuation. Bring kindness, wisdom, and the ability to integrate the shadow into the lives of others. And most importantly, stay true to yourself, to your selfhood. Your life, your path to individuation, is your greatest project, and you deserve to make it truly outstanding. Let your every step be a step toward a clearer, stronger, wiser, and more complete you, toward your selfhood.